got no mic, Gary.
I haven't even unclicked myself. Good morning. I didn't realise that
Morning,
was
good
repeating
morning.
itself. I was just looking down at my notes, and the next thing I know, I'd got a repetition of music in my ear. I love that intro. To be fair, it's a bit rocky. It gets you going. It gets you get your foot thumping on the floor. Like I say, it's a bit early today because obviously Wynn's got things to do, places to go, people to see. So we've come to you a little bit earlier. So again, it's like looking at a little bit. I mean, obviously there was some breaking news, and it come all over social media early this morning about the APT developments and stuff like that. So we thought we'd touch on it. There ain't a lot out there, to be fair, that you can say it's going to benefit us one way or the other. But before we go into obviously all of the day's topics, because like I say, there's lots of little bits and pieces out there, not a major lot. Let's have a quick look at the housework, and then we'll crack on with the show. Welcome to everybody watching across all of the platforms. Thanks to all the mods in the background, doing a tireless job, but they do amazing as we do. Don't forget to smash that like button for us if you enjoy the show. Just get us further as a channel to other supporters. Subscribe, it's totally free. Hit that bell for future content. We do 7 days a week stuff. And like I say, some days we'll double up on shows. So if you hit that bell, anytime we're coming live or we've got a pre-recorded, you'll get notifications. And obviously you can join us with your comments while we're live, or you can obviously throw in some of your thoughts, even if you watch the show later at a time. Obviously you can...
Come on, you're all slacking. We've got over 100 on all media at the minute, and we've only got 4 likes. Come
Well, we've only
on, man.
just started, mate. Come on, you got to give these lads, it's obviously some time to get into the grips of
Hit the button. It
the
should be
vibe.
automatic. Hit the
So,
thumbs up.
absolutely. So obviously you can help us grow if you want to as a channel. You become a member. It's a small monthly fee that'll give you a chance of winning a prize at the end of each month. So you could have a nice prezi from us if you become a member. And it also gives you obviously a look at our behind the scenes stuff, that members only content. You could also have a look at our webpage, nufctalk.tv. That'll give you all up-to-date content as we get it, especially if it's varied and valued, because obviously there's a lot of stuff out there that without substance, and that's all I'm going to say on that. But it's totally ad-free, so if you've got 5 minutes and you want a quick read on something, then head towards that. If you've got a question for me or Win, then obviously try and put a Q in front of it. Again, if we've got time and it's relevant, we will talk about it. If you want to guarantee it, then use the $sign. Follow the instructions, and that'll guarantee that message read out on the show. Anybody that becomes a new member, or anybody that's lovely enough to gift a membership, will be highlighted and thanked as we go. So that's it then. That's the housework done.
There's all the T's and C's.
Absolutely. I mean, people say, don't you just get bored of saying the same thing over and over again? It's like everything else, as much as we've been doing this show and as much as people rewatch old shows. I mean, I watch our old shows simply because, one, this is brand new to me. So I like to learn on the job. And sometimes you can see your mistakes as it happens. I must admit, it was a good show of you guys last night, having the undisputed. Jefferson came, broke his virginity on the show, and I thought he did a good show. Spoke very well and had some really interesting points, to be fair. So yeah, well done, Jefferson. Obviously, one of D-Man's crew out on the 90s mags. Which again, if you're interested, go and have a look at that. They do some interesting subjects. And like I say, Jefferson's always Eddie out. We can obviously come on to what Alan Shearer said in The Athletic on his column about what he thinks about Eddie's safety, and he's the subject on that. But before any further ado, obviously this morning there was some breaking news about the new ATP rules, the associated third party stuff. And there seemed to be a little bit of, say, enthusiasm when it comes to what that potentially could add to Newcastle's sponsorship deals and growth as a club. Now, obviously, I sent Win this morning what was on the sponsorship. This was in 23, June 23, and that looked at where we are in regards to the rest of the Premier League clubs post the Champions League, because obviously we all know that that this sponsorship deals and stuff like that fluctuate with how clubs individually are doing. And what I noticed, and like I say, I'm just going to read literally part of this transcript that I've been working on this morning. It says the fair market value of Premier League clubs is a complex issue, as it depends on a variety of factors, including on-field performance, successful teams with a strong track record of winning trophies, qualifying for European competitions tend to be more valuable. Financial stability. Clubs with strong financial resources, low debt, and high revenue streams are more attractive to potential buyers. Brand value. Clubs with strong global brands and large fan bases are more valuable than those with smaller followings. Infrastructure. Clubs with modern stadiums, training facilities, and other infrastructure are more valuable than those with outdated facilities. Player value. The value of clubs' playing squad can also impact on its overall valuation. Several sources provide information on the fair market value of the Premier League clubs. So you've got Transfer Market, and you've got Deloitte, Football Money League, and you've got Forbes that all give you obviously where you are. Now, the one that I sent you this morning. Now I'm just going to have a quick look because I've lost where I was, because you said obviously straight away that this was
It was old
last
news.
year. Yeah, it's old news, and we'd already looked at this previously. But what the one thing that I got interested with this, because I'd read the 24 version, and nothing's really changed. But the obvious thing for me was when it stated about Newcastle. Um,
The last time there was a rule change was the 22nd of November, if you remember, which we did the show
oh
on,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where and the only real changes to that had nothing to do with fair market value or APT. They were all connected with shareholder loans,
Yeah, absolutely. No,
with the exception that they put a time limit on the length of time that the Premier League could take to give their adjudication on a fair market value. And they also added into the clause that when an APT transaction was submitted to the Premier League for adjudication, that it had to be signed by a director of the club. So you had to have a situation where the director was saying, in our opinion, this is fair market value, and the director had to sign off on that, which hadn't previously been the case. And then, once that is submitted, the Premier League have only got 10 days to do their investigation and determine whether or not it is fair market value. Other
Okay.
than that, nothing changed.
No, but all I wanted to do, if I'm honest, was just to give some insight on, like I say, where we were regarding our sponsors and what is, I say, where we are in the league, if you like, regarding the sponsorship deals. And it gives you some indication. Now, like I say, this is 2023 season. So when you look at this, you can see us sitting in sixth position, and of a apparently that what they class us as a fair market value is £17.4 million. Now, obviously, this is post the Champions League.
And this is,
Again,
by the way, this is purely for shirt sponsorship.
this is purely shirt sponsorships. Um, but again, when you're looking at the figures above us, um, we we're still a little bit further behind the big hitters, um, and quite considerably behind the top hitters. So it does show you. But what I wanted to see was the fact that when you look at our deals from 22-23, which was 9.8 million, and that was with Fun 88. And then obviously there's a difference of 7.6 million, because obviously what they're saying now is, have we got more money than we actually are valued at? Because obviously we sell her, I believe it's 24 million. That was our yearly shirt sponsor. So according to the figures on this website, we are overpaid, or been over-sponsored, if you like, for where we should be on this fair market value. And I think it's a
But
case of
just
trying
to
to.
put things in perspective, Gary, by the way, this website that we're looking at is sponsors.com or whatever. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is allegedly, so it's only their opinion. And
Well,
this is,
it's not an opinion. These are facts. These are all the values at the time of shirt sponsors.
yeah, but I'm talking about what they are saying the market value should be. It's them being supposed experts in the sponsorship field. They are saying this is what fair market value is.
Yeah, well, I mean,
But they're basing it purely on what's currently being achieved, and that
yeah,
was,
well,
like I say, that was in 2023.
yeah. But that's what I said. So as we are on the decline from 2023, we've not, we've not won anything. We're certainly not in the Champions League. So would you say that that is a fair market value of where we are then? Because
No, I
we're not
wouldn't.
on the incline.
No,
You know what I
because
mean? We're on the.
I think all of those figures are grossly understated as to where they could be and should be. I've been looking at some figures. The Premiership has got a global market audience of 4 billion. It is the biggest sports, it's the most viewed sports franchise in the world by a considerable distance. To give you an example, that 4 billion viewers for the Premiership covers 380 matches worldwide. That averages out at 10.5 million per game. The final, this is the final of the Champions League last season, only drew in 145 million worldwide. So you could argue that the European Cup, the Champions League final, is only worth 10 million, 10 Premier League games. And we've got 380 Premiership games. So we've got the equivalent, in the Premier League alone, we've got the equivalent of 17 Champions League finals. And
Yeah.
that to me is what Premier League clubs currently are not exploiting.
No, I agree, but that's totally different to individual clubs, isn't it? What I'm saying to you is, I've just gone through a list of what they see as sellable assets for any future sponsor to look at to see how much money they can throw in. And I'm just going to switch to this screen because obviously
Uh, I
this
don't
is
know if
the
I agree
tab.
with that.
Well, that's fact. I haven't made that up. That is exactly the facts that any sponsor
No,
looks
that
at.
website has made that up.
No, that's facts. That's not from that website. That's what I've looked at this morning. I have gone to all of the Deloitte twos, you name it, all of the big guns, and I've looked at what do we look at when we come to sponsoring a club, and it's all about the sellable assets, training facilities, everything. Is it up to standard? And that's why I think Newcastle have been pushing to get all of the background staff, like all the training ground up to speed. Even though they still say it's a little bit outdated, even though they've thrown £10 million plus in there. And I think that's the reasons why they've been able to achieve what they've achieved with Salah, because of the upgrade. Now, like I said, and that's why I've put this on, it's a sponsorship increase of 78%. And that's why there was problems regarding the legitimacy of the deal, because obviously it come from a Saudi-backed company, as in Salah. And that's why clubs are starting to question, if we've got this earmark of around 17.5 million, and then we're getting sponsorships of 24 million from Salah, how does it compare and contrast to the clubs around us that can't reach those figures? And that's where they start to question, is it true market value? And that's where I said, I've had to go back and have a look at the 23, because obviously having looked at the 24, there ain't many changes. And I would have expected.
Well, this is where we would appear to be diametrically opposed, then, because what I'm saying is that if Man United are worth 50 million a year for their shirt sponsorship, the reason the team viewer are paying 50 million to Man United for that is because their logo is on the shirt that is being seen proportionately more out of those 4 billion global viewers than what Newcastle are. But Newcastle are playing Man United twice a season. So our brand is getting exactly the same coverage as Man United brand, as is Ipswich. Ipswich are playing Man United. And if you take the top 6, whatever, that's 12 of Ipswich's games are getting the same global awareness as is Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, whoever.
But shirt sponsors will look at the club individually. That's what they're looking at, fair market value. They're not looking at what you're
why
playing
will they
against.
look at the club individually?
Well, like I've just told you, what the fair market value assesses is the club that you're sponsoring and at the price that you're sponsoring it at. You just said there, right? I'm going back to 23. So Luton Town was the lowest in our club with 3.6 million shirt sponsor, right?
Yeah. And
So
I'm saying that their commercial department should be horsewhipped for only getting $3.6 million.
you're just looking at the fact that they're going to be playing all these big teams above them because they've been promoted. What I'm saying to you is, as a sponsorship, you're not going to go out there and sponsor a team to the high end, knowing full well that you're only going to be seen for a small amount of time. Just like I said, these guys are now been obviously relegated back into the Championship. So where's the even balance? What they're looking at is, how good are you over a period of time, and can I increase my revenue? And if I can't increase the revenue, then whereabouts am I on the ladder regarding the fair market value, regarding the sponsorship? And that's what I'm saying. At the minute, we've taken an increase from seller at 70 odd percent, and the teams around us are questioning how we can get that price when the likes of West Ham, that won the conference, can only get 17.1. And that's what I'm saying. That's why they complained about it, because we were going in at the top end rather than looking at it on a different keel.
So
And that's what I'm saying.
From what you've just said there, right? Luton Town, their shirt sponsor is Utilita Energy,
Yeah.
the UK's #1 pay-as-you-go energy supplier. Why are Luton Town looking at, if you like, a niche market in the UK sponsor, as opposed to going to, I don't know, General Motors, who did sponsor Man United shirt sponsors, or was it General Motors, Chevrolet or whatever, and saying to them, look, we're not Man United, but your brand's going to get exactly the same coverage worldwide as what their shirt does. almost as much. Obviously, not as many people will tune into Luton Town games as do to Man U. But that would all be, they'd be able to get all of those metrics and say we get globally, 2.5 billion a season. So you could argue that 2.5 billion as opposed, let's say Man United got the whole shebang, 4 billion, which they don't. But supposing they did, they could say, our metrics can show you our shirts are being seen annually by 2.5 billion people. Man United's are being seen by 4 billion people worldwide. We don't expect to get 50 million that they are getting, but we certainly expect to get 25 million because we're getting half the views that Man United are getting.
Yeah, but you're looking at the views and the views only. You're not looking at the club and the
That's
club
why.
structure.
That's why the sponsors are on the shirts for the views.
Yeah, I know, but you're still only sponsoring the club as a whole. You're not sponsoring the
No,
who's
no.
viewing
All you're
them.
doing, you are paying money to have it's brand awareness. You're paying money
Yeah, I
to have
know.
your
Yeah,
logo where loads of people see it.
yeah, but that's what I said. That's why I've just gone. You're looking at the club structurally, not who's not financially going to go. Listen, at the end of the day, Man United know full well that they can go out the same as Man City and they can do an auction. Who wants to put a sponsor on my shirt? And they're going to get umpteen bids.
Right.
Likes of Luton Town and the likes of
So,
Ipswich are
so,
going to
so, so
struggle.
no, no, no. Why
That's
not?
that.
Why
Yeah,
not? So
yeah. Well,
you go to
okay. So why does Ed
all the
Sheeran go on
sponsors.
to the
Hang on, all the
Ipswich?
sponsors that you've seen they go to auction. So you've got all these different sponsors who want their brand seen worldwide. So they're bidding for the Man United shirt. They miss out. So you go to them and you say, "Look, we're not Man United, but we can get your shirt seen just as many times."
Oh. Okay, then. So why did we go to Seller?
Why did we go to Salah?
Yeah, if that's what you're
Well, well,
saying,
well.
if we can go out
First
to
of all,
auction,
because
why did we go to Seller?
our commercial department under Mike Ashley was shite, as we all know, because all he was interested was his brand recognition.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if we can go out to auction, then surely we can go to the highest bidder. It doesn't work like that. We've already gone, like I said, 78% above what we are supposed to get.
No, well, no, you're talking in terms of total revenue now. That's the
Now, I'm just talking
78%.
sponsor. That's 78% is above what we should get on shirt sponsor alone, nothing else.
Well, we're getting nearly 4 times. We're getting nearly 400% on the shirt sponsor.
Oh, we're
Because
not.
we've gone from 7.8 million with Fun 88 to 25 million.
Well, it was 9 million with all the add-ons, but then it went to. But that's what I'm saying. It's gone to 24 million, but we should be on 17.4 million.
Well, Fun
That's the
88.
average.
I thought Fun 88 was just over 7 million
Yeah,
a
I think
season.
everything that you add on to that, though, I think it's like everything else. That could 9 million could be gross. That could be after all the bits and pieces. I don't know. I don't know the fun facts on Fun
Uh,
88.
I mean,
All I've
I'm
got
pretty
is
sure it went for because Noon are currently sponsoring the sleeve for 7 million.
7 million. Yeah.
And that's what was said at the time, that sleeve sponsorship is now worth as much as what the full shirt sponsorship was the season before.
No, I see. For me, I understand where they're getting this metric from regarding where your club is within the league, and are you winning things or are you not? And if you have a look, there's a massive middle section there, away from the top six. That again, the cartel, um, that are winning things, that are always involved in the Champions League, always involved in Europe at some point, or even winning cups. Even the likes of Man U that don't finish anywhere near European places manage to sneak through the door by winning a cup. So continually, they are in the limelight. Now, as daft as it looks, for the last few
Yeah, well,
years, Man United
hang
have.
on, because this is what I'm saying. You're talking about Europe there. Global TV coverage of the Champions League is minuscule compared to the Premier League. Absolutely minuscule.
Yeah, I know that, but
You're talking about tens of millions of viewers for Champions League games, as opposed to hundreds of millions of viewers for every Premiership game.
yeah, I know what you're saying. But what I'm getting to is the value of the club sitting in the European places is a lot higher in
Why?
regards to because you're achieving win.
No,
Why do we go to
that
big stand?
what the football club is achieving. If I'm an advertising executive, what the football club, it's going to have some bearing because
It's
you like to
massive
be.
bearing.
Because no, a tiny bearing, because you're gonna be basking in reflected glory of whatever it is that you're sponsoring. But what
It's
I'm
bragging
interested,
rights, mate, isn't it?
no, that's not, man. What I'm interested in as an advertising executive is having my brand seen and noticed and watched. And you're getting that. Doesn't matter which shirt it's on. If the match is on telly, you're seeing that millions of times, and not just for 30 seconds on a television advert, but for 90 minutes during a football match.
I'm not sure that I can see it as I would never look at somebody the likes of I don't know. Let's look at a mid, say Bournemouth, right? I would never ever, if it was me, as if you're telling me, if I had the opportunity to go and throw the same money at Man U, Man City, Spurs, or Liverpool, say Chelsea, then I would do at Bournemouth, just for the fact that I can get on anybody's shirt for the same money. Because if I had the
Well, I'm
opportunity,
saying
I'd go
you're
on.
not gonna get the same money, and
That's what I'm saying. You're gonna have to pay a higher price,
yeah,
aren't you?
no. But the reason you're not gonna get the same money is because those other teams that you've mentioned are being seen more. Your brand is being seen more because more people are watching them play football than are watching Bournemouth play football. But what I'm saying is, for the best part of half a season, third of the season, Bournemouth are in exactly the same category as far as advertising is concerned. Their shirts are being seen exactly the same amount of times as the bigger clubs are. And this
I,
is where they're missing a trick. And the,
I,
and you'll see this. As I say, my crystal ball's out, and I'm predicting that when clubs are given, or when the Premier League take the television rates off Sky and do it themselves, which I think is only a matter of time, so they don't have a middleman, you'll see what they do with the advertising.
right. Well, let's have a look at where this obviously breaking news came from, because obviously this morning it was uh, it come out on SLBSN, which is Stefan Borson's post. So, breaking Premier League rules news: the new post APT tribunal Premier League rules are out following FA board approval. So, obviously, these have still got to come out for approval, apparently, where all the clubs come back in and vote. Probably the most significant deletion we didn't specifically know about is the fair market value section, presumably as part of the moving of the burden back to the board to show the deal is evident or not regarding fair market value. So the only thing that this reads to me is, I mean, you mentioned it today. There's
I can't quite say that there. Is that Rule E55, Barry?
you keep calling me Barry, and I'm
Sorry.
It throws me every time because I'm on a different screen and I'm thinking, is somebody else joining me or what? No, I know what you're saying. So what all he's stating here, right, is it's the evidence.
There's a
So
job for you. Go out on Sunday. Get a deed poll done.
so
Apologies.
yeah, there's a cross reference here, and I'm not going to show all of it because it is pretty damn boring, if I'm honest. And like I say, it probably won't even load now. I've tried this.
Well,
Um,
it is pretty damn
but
boring because
it is it
I've
is
looked at I've looked at every scintilla and
yeah.
punctuation and read it
So
umpteen times.
so you've got literally the same page left and right. That's what all it is. And the highlighted parts on this left-hand side, if I scroll up and I can move it across, is obviously just giving you the conditions, what they're looking at, and all the jargon that comes with it. And then when you look at the rewritten part of the rules, which is this part here, there's a considerable chunk missing. And the only thing that I can see when it comes to this part that's been removed is how they the Premier League or the board or whoever goes and has a look at these sponsors is how they can prove if it's fair market value. So it's a case of it's going to cost them a lot of money to do this. There's very little out there where they can put one against the other, simply because of what I've just mentioned in the previous thing. It's about stature in Premier League. It's about what you've won over the last period of years. It's about how valued your squad is as a whole. It's a number of things, right? So how can the Premier League?
You see, I can't see where squad value comes in anything.
Well, I would imagine when you look at squad value, it's about have you got the money behind you to keep going forward, and we'll come on to what we've got to talk about is potential buy sell to buy situation, which has obviously been aired over another channel yesterday, and obviously we've got a number of players now that potentially could need to leave, if not in January, but definitely in June. So I think squad valuation makes a massive point towards any sponsor coming through, because if you're not stable in the water now, you can forget the backing. And I don't say that we are never going to be in trouble, but what I'm saying to you is at this present moment in time, because we have a very small pool of sellable assets, we aren't balanced. It's not a club that you can say,
What's that got to do with sponsorship?
well, it's value to the club. That's what I said. You've got to look at the
As
entire
I'm
club
saying,
as value.
all a sponsor is interested in is getting value for money in
That's
terms of
that's that's
what
I
what
understand what you're saying about what you're saying, what they see on the Premier League front of shirt sponsors and things like that. But for the money that they're putting in, they want to see that there's evidence behind the money that they're putting in. It's not just about putting it on the front of the shirt, because every team
but
goes
the
through.
evidence is there. 4 billion views a year
Yeah,
worldwide.
yeah, but that's for every club in
Yeah.
the Premier League. That's what I'm saying. So you can't tell me that there should be a massive difference financially from top to bottom. Then, if it's just on views alone, it has to do with something else. And that's why I said when you read the behind the scenes stuff
Well,
of
it
what
has to do
sponsorships are
with the
looking
fact
for.
that the top clubs get viewed more than the bottom clubs do. That's what it's got to do with.
Depends on where you are. I mean, you're always going to have. Listen,
No, no,
I agree with you are right.
the live games on Sky, for example, are going to get a far bigger viewing than what the all the other games are that aren't shown live.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
and,
mean,
and, and, and it's the big six that get chosen
well, we often get,
for those
even
live
when
games.
we're on live on on TV, we often say, especially when we're on Sky Sports, Sky Sports will talk about anybody else apart from Newcastle, even though it's
Mm.
Newcastle that's been shown on TV. We noticed that, the other day when Man City were during this poor run, were obviously there or thereabouts. But all I'm saying is, regarding of anything else, this is something for me where
What I'm saying is for the Premier League to Newcastle can argue, as far as I'm concerned, that if Man United are getting £60 million for their shirt, we can pay 50 million for our shirt because our viewership is, you know, that percentage different from what Man United's is. And by the way, we are one of the highest viewed, or certainly in the top six as far as highest views concerned.
yeah, but like I said, we are miles away from being in the top, even though we sit sixth in the league. You look at where we are in the league at sixth, as in shirt sponsors, compared to the top. You know, 50
Yeah,
million
yeah,
pound difference
half.
is phenomenal. You know, and that's what I said. That these are the little things that are holding us back, and there ain't a lot. You
You know,
can
but I would go further. I would argue that, as when we're talking earlier, Spotify are paying 70 million euros a year for Barcelona. Newcastle's TV coverage exceeds Barcelona by, you know, 4 or 5 times
yeah.
because
Well,
we're in the Premier League.
yeah, I know, but like I say, there's still a lot that you have to look at regarding just Viewerland for sponsorship deals, and that's why I said I had to a little bit dig deep because I couldn't quite understand where this breaking news come from, and the only
Well, I couldn't
difference.
see where I couldn't see where it came
No,
from either.
and I was questioning it, and that's why I thought this morning. I mean, I was up at 4 o'clock this morning just trying to get my brains in gear again. I don't know why, but as soon as the bloody birds start whistling, I seem to be up with the larks. Um, so I literally come online and I was looking at all this the relevant information, and I couldn't quite understand. Again, I'm not into the jargon and with all the stuff that's written regarding the Premier League. It literally is just all bloody words for me. So I had to dig a little bit deeper, and the only thing that's missing is the fact that the Premier League cannot prove if it's fair market value. So again, they can't go into seller and say you've overpaid. That's literally more or less is how it stands. Even though, according to it, they have overpaid us. But for me, going forward, does that open the avenue for other sponsorship deals, stadium sponsorship deals, and the training ground? Does that open up a little bit of a door for us to go and have a look there? I
And
don't
and
know.
then we've got the other massive word, which is potential, because any sponsor can argue that we haven't got they're not having the success right now, but we believe they have the potential, and we're prepared to back it to help it happen.
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to have a quick look at if there's anything before we move on to the next topic? Because, like I say, we've spent 30 odd minutes talking about that. So, like I say, we've probably no further forward than we was when we started. Um, so, if you can see anything that I have starred a few, but I come
There's
into it.
DX saying I'm making sense, and Chris the American Mag saying I don't make sense.
Hmm.
To be honest, I've been that engrossed in the conversation, I haven't been looking at the.
No, I've starred a couple as you were talking. I've been looking at what's going on. I ain't going to go
Anyone
through all
still
of.
fooled by them sticking the word fair on the rules as an ostrich? Competitive balance is another one. Translate to rigging the order.
It,
Mm.
there's a part of me that understands that, but there's also a part now I've had to look into it a little bit more. Actual fact, it does make a little bit more sense. People that are successful, and again, I'll go to any other business. Why do people get promoted within their careers? If they're successful in line, you go up to that next level um, in order, and that's exactly the same, I think, as clubs. If you're successful on the field of play, you're going to obviously look at more of a sponsorship deal from other deals, and like I say, it becomes more of an auction for the bigger clubs, so they get more
Yeah,
of the
and
shirt
what
sponsor.
I'm saying is, if the smaller clubs had a half decent commercial department, they'd be finding out who the losing out bidders were and saying, "Why are you wanting to sponsor Man United? Why do you want your name on their shirts?" And the bottom line is, we want the name on the shirts because it's going to be seen. And they're going to, and you can turn around and say, "Well, look, we're not going to be seen quite as often as Man United, but we're going to be seen a lot more times than you'll get if you sponsor anybody else in any other field. Get your big bucks down here and go to all five of them. If you're saying, man, you have got six people bidding for it, go to all five and say, put a bid in for us.
Yeah, I
'Cause
mean,
I'm
I
sure they'd be
understand where
getting
you're
more
coming
than
from.
3 million.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but like I say, the, that's what sponsorships look at. They don't look at anything else. They don't look at how many viewers you're going to have because they
That's exactly what they look at.
what viewing.
Yes.
Okay,
They
well,
want to
okay.
know how often the brand's going to be seen.
Well, it's like I said, you're always going to be on telly at some point, aren't you? Even Match of the Day, they know they're going to be on there every week, week in, week out, even though it's a small clip.
Yeah,
They're going to be on Match of the Day.
and for a few minutes,
Huge. And I'm going to tell you
as
something
opposed
now.
to 90 minutes.
You know what's got a bigger bracket of viewership? It has got nothing to do with the Premier League. YouTube. YouTube videos now are probably worldwide one of the
Right,
biggest sponsors any company could have
right.
because they are rotatedly going through and being watched over and over and over again across the globe
Well,
multiple times.
that's why advertising revenue I mean, Google are now Google just control the world now in advertising. If
I no, I think, like I say, people. Again, I look at the brand, and you don't go out and you don't go to Marks and Spencers. You know, if I had the chance or the choice for shopping, would I rather go to Marks and Spencers than Lidl or Aldi? If I had the money, then obviously I would, because the brand of food's better. It's the same product in the packet, but obviously it's a bit better branding.
but
Um,
yeah, but
you
that's
know,
what advertising does.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But you also know you get quality within the package. It's got nothing to do with the advertising. It's the food content within it. It's better. It's designed better, and that's what I'm saying. That's why people go to these places, the same as Sainsbury's.
So I take it you must have missed the it's a couple of years back now, where they went to a food processing plant in Chelmsford or somewhere, and the the exact same product, was being churned out in the plant, and when it came to the labelling, there was on exactly the same product. There's Aldi labels going on. There's Marks and Sparks labels going on. There's Sainsbury's labels going on. The exact same product.
I've seen lots of different things like that where it's given out multitude of times, and it's like TVs and stuff like that. The innards are a certain brand. The exterior casing is going to be the shop's brand. That's the way things go. But you know, potatoes are potatoes at the end of the day, aren't they? They come
Correct.
out of the ground. So big shops always get now, and I'm going to say this quite nicely. Big shops always get first pick of all fruit and veg because they want the pinnacle. Same as football clubs. Football players, the top line, will never come to lower end clubs. Why is that? Why do you think we could never go and reach out for the stars? Because again, we are just a mid-table club, won nothing, not achieving anything on a year to year. We are growing as a club, but all we can sell them is the foresight of winning something, a promise. Where a lot of clubs in front of us that get this global recognition are actually winning things. They've got it behind them. So they wear what they can sell on the sleeve. And that's the way I look at it. You know, if I can promise you something, doesn't mean that I'm going to get it. And that's why a couple of our players now are questioning, and I'll go to Isaac. Isaac didn't sign another contract because he said you're not fulfilling your promise. And that's what I'm saying. You can only sell a promise to a
Yeah, yeah,
point where you're successful.
but you're talking two different things here. You're talking
Not
about
really.
Newcastle being well, you're talking about Newcastle being able to go and sign big players. Well, there's loads of reasons, as we know, why we can't do that. Bottom line is money. Players will go to whoever pays them the most money, by and large. If Newcastle what are going off if Holland's contract's up a contract and we going off a Holland, 500 million a week, he's going to come here. He's not 500,000 a week. He's and City are only going to pay him 300,000 a week. He's going to come here. Unfortunately, we can't afford to do that at the minute. So,
No,
and of
no.
course, and we've been through all the old, the Premiership points you gain by the wage bill that you've got, and so on and so on and so on, which we all know about. Uh, that's completely different advertising and sponsorship.
Um, Beard has bought one in here. As for substantiality, substantiality, sustainability. I don't know why I've got substantiality in
Mm.
my head. The rules were brought in to stop owners with no money buying clubs. Anyone with half a brain can see the solution was the owner test or agreeing to pay any debt before leaving. Um,
Well,
uh,
that's the way to solve the sustainability aspect for me is just you can't borrow money.
no,
Simple as
well,
that. You can't borrow money to buy players.
no. Well, like I say, that's something that's still got to be, like I
And
say,
then the rest
this
is
is why
all
I
now
can't.
taken care of by the shareholder loan. So you can't put a loan in and say, right, I want it back out, and the club goes under. No, no, you put the
No.
money in, it's in there, bunny lad.
Yeah. You see, this is why I couldn't understand why they all went for this meeting. For the Premier League were pushing for everybody to go to this meeting to agree to the terms before they'd had this, you know, not ruling, but obviously a rewording of the rule book. And like I say, the only thing I can see is how can you, find what what is value, what is market value, because there is nothing to go by. There's far too many variables. That's all I'm going to say.
Indeed.
Um, what have I got on here? Somebody has put something. Uh, DX has put foreign players are generally more attracted to the hype of London if they're going to go anywhere. I suppose that's true. It's an overcrowded dump, but it's got the legacy of being a thriving capital city. In fairness, Chelsea were winning trophies even before Roman Abramovich arrived, said Foxy. Well, I said by Abramovich.
I don't think that's strictly true.
Can't borrow like Arsenal and Brighton, getting 400 million interest-free loans, says Shane. Right then, let's change subject because I get a bit tongue dry with stuff that I don't really understand, even though I try and get to the bottom of it. Interesting report this morning that came out about I say report. It was something that I read in the papers about Eddie Howe and Alan Shearer making a bit of a statement that come out this morning. It's obviously Alan Shearer has said about giving notice regarding Eddie Howe's future. And it says like the Magpie chief is naturally facing growing pressure at St James's Park after just 2 wins in 11 outings. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about the next 5 fixtures in a minute because I'm sure that the Mighty Winds got some fascinating numbers coming our way. Saturday's 4-2 reversal at Brentford and the manner of the second half performance in particular has added to the concern with a crucial set of festive fixtures on the way against Leicester City, Brentford in the Cup, and then Ipswich. And then obviously it starts to turn, facing a couple of the big boys regarding Aston Villa, Man U, Spurs. And then obviously Shearer went on to go and talk about Eddie Howe regarding where he believes he should be now. And he goes on to say, Newcastle into the future, the former number 9 still believes the former Bournemouth boss can prosper on Tyneside. And then it goes, it is a sentiment echoed by the majority of the fan base, despite recent performances. Now, obviously, you guys had the debate. We talked about it. Great debate last night. Lots of topics of conversation, I suppose. And the fact is, we are on a downward spiral. Very similar thing to how it was.
Spiral is that's a bit of a harsh word.
I can only go on
We're
what I saw
certainly
at
on a dip.
Bournemouth. Yeah, what we went on Bournemouth. Now, obviously, you tried to show something yesterday evening on the show, but was having trouble with your speakerage. So I'm going to put it up here because I mean it is an interesting point of view from what these guys we're talking about. I mean, it is relevant to a point. And this is the Bournemouth crew giving their point of view on what they think with Iraola compared now to Eddie Howe and their thought process. So it's a couple of minutes. So I'm going to put this on and then we'll go through the rest of what Alan Shearer said about Eddie Howe.
So look, Tom,
Yes.
people have clicked this because they saw a picture of Eddie and Iraola on the thumbnail with the title, "We Can't Believe We're Saying This." What can't we believe we're saying?
I've never loved two men so much they ain't related to me. Is that what we're saying?
Well, maybe, but look, a lot of people are suggesting.
I used to think I was straight.
A lot of people are suggesting that Iraola is better than Eddie. That's such a conversation that's very difficult to approach. I've sort of suggested that Eddie was our prince,
Right.
but Iraola's the king, which he could well be. But then you made a comparison about what Eddie did for us as well.
I refuse to believe anyone could have done what Eddie Howe did. I don't think Iraola could have done what Eddie Howe did, bring us up from the bottom of League Two. And Shane, Eddie always talked about, he always played good football. He always talked about how when he was in League Two, he jumped out the Fletch and we had to have a sticky patch. So I don't believe Iraola could have done what Eddie did. And he never ever was going to take that away from him. But do I believe that Eddie could be doing what Iraola's doing right now with this group and the way we're playing and what we're doing against big teams? And let's be honest, we've never beaten City. We've got some pumpings, et cetera, et cetera. I don't.
I almost think that Eddie's a bit too ingrained in his principles,
Yeah, mate.
whereas Iraola doesn't really have a rule book to rip up. He just like he goes with his heart.
I think 100%. And I think they're both, as much as they both play good football in different ways, they are different. They're very, very different styles. And a lot of draws between each other, funnily enough, which says all it needs to. They're both brilliant coaches, but I think there's something that Ando's doing now that I do look at and go, I don't know if he could have done this.
No.
And the way we're performing at the moment, and
Is he better?
I think he's a better coach. Yes.
Yeah.
I was trying to look at it and go,
He's not better at them.
no. Well, I think what Eddie's done really well. So when he come into Newcastle, for example, take it away from the Bournemouth conversation, pretty much not dead and buried, but they were right in it.
Yeah.
And very quickly, he got the best out of players that you thought they're rubbish. Like they thought they were useless under Steve Bruce.
If Iraola has done that.
He has, but he's done it. We were still in a good place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We were better than some. But what I will say is they've now got to a point. You look at Newcastle now, and I think if Eddie were to come to Bournemouth now with that group, I don't know if he could let the shackles off that much and get playing. I don't know. It's difficult. It's really difficult. But I think Iraola is a better coach than Eddie Howe, especially what I want to say is in game.
Yeah.
I think his in game, his substitutions.
Yeah. It's rare. I think there's only been one game recently. It was this season, it wasn't too long ago, where Iraola made some changes, and afterwards, in hindsight, we were saying it didn't work. Maybe it was Brentford. Maybe I don't know. It was
Brentford was
a lot.
boiling. One of them two defeats, maybe that the changes didn't quite help. I probably want Brian Foot scored. So maybe Brentford, where it didn't quite work. But equally, the players got taken.
Interesting. Interesting look at where they think who's better, Eddie or Iraola. And I think they come up with some really interesting points, to be fair. We talk about substitutions. We've talked about them previously.
In-game management, they're talking
in-game management has been poor. And obviously they've also said that could Eddie go into Bournemouth now after Iraola and make Bournemouth any better? No, he couldn't, and I think that's an obvious point. So for me, it was good to hear what opposition fans see Eddie doing and has done previously
Well,
at
the
Newcastle.
point is, you're saying opposition fans, but they are two guys who absolutely love Eddie to bits.
Yeah,
And they are still saying, Eddie's great at doing certain stuff, but can he do other stuff? And they've come to the conclusion that perhaps he couldn't.
no. But I mean, it is all hindsight, isn't it? There's no fact benefit behind this. So what did Alan Shearer go on to say? So he was saying, I mean, we've heard what Bournemouth fans are saying about Eddie's approach. Now, Alan Shearer, obviously, he's been in the hot seat himself, and there was somebody threw quite I know it was a curveball into one of the shows. Do you think Alan Shearer should come back as manager? Well, I think everybody's seen Alan Shearer's comment regarding that, and I think it was categorically no. He would never come back to the hot seat at Newcastle. Um, and you know, being a pundit, being a critic, is totally different to being a coach and managing a squad of players because there's a lot to take on board. But he does say that he's had a lack of backing in the transfer market of late. As we approach January in the winter window, it is 18 months since Howe saw his first team bolstered with a player who would instantly command a starting spot. So I think that was, again, a big holding point for us because obviously we've said, as well as Alan Shearer said, that we've stagnated a little bit. We've gone a little bit bland in our style of football. And because Eddie doesn't seem to have plan B, C with the players that he's got, because I was listening to you guys' show last night, couldn't get involved because I was busy with the family, but good listening. But the one thing that come to mind for me was, is it the fact that we can't have a plan B because we haven't got the players in the right areas with the right quality to change?
Well, like I say, results. You know, getting back. Are you on about the Shearer interview for the Athletic, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just he summarised that by saying, "I don't have any doubts about Howe still being the right man for Newcastle." That was his overarching opinion. I don't have any doubts about Howe still being the right man for Newcastle, says Alan Shearer. I do, as was said last night, but to me, it's no doubt. Eddie's lifeline now is 4 games, and for me, he's got to win all 4. You could maybe give him a draw against Villa at home, but he's got to beat Ipswich, he's got to beat Brentford, and he's got to beat Leicester. If you look at Leicester, they've only won 3 games all season. They beat West Ham 3-1. How they did it, I've got no idea, because in that game, West Ham had 31 shots with 10 on target to Leicester's 8 shots and 6 on target. And out of their 6 on target, they scored 3. They beat Southampton 3-2, with the winner coming in the 90-plus 4th minute. Southampton had 7 shots on target to Leicester's 4, of which they scored 3. And they beat Bournemouth 1-0 when Bournemouth had 19 shots, but only 2 on target, whereas Leicester only had 6 shots with 2 on target, but they scored 1 of them.
That's interesting. I've just put the fixtures up on the screen, and for some unknown reason, it's gone blank. So I don't know what's happened there. So I'm just
Well,
going to.
we know what they are. The Leicester, Brentford, Ipswich, and Villa are the next 4.
It's on our screen, but it's not on the TV showing actually on YouTube. So I don't
I
know why
can't see
that's.
them on our screen even.
The one on mine, I could see them on
Oh.
mine. I don't know why they didn't show up anywhere else.
But anyway,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, for me, there's absolutely no excuse at all for not beating Leicester.
So Jefferson brought up a point yesterday about changing a manager, and you get that instant regen, if you like, of players and belief and everything else. A change, if you like, sometimes gives you that little bit of a oomph. Now, you know, I did a study back in the day, and we've talked about this, me and you, previously, where you get that 5-match spike, which is on average. Some teams get less, some teams get more, depending on the size of the squad that you're dealing with and the quality of players. So, on average, it's a 5, what they call the 5-match hitch. And after that, it levels itself out, if not goes back into its usual decline. But obviously, with Leicester, obviously Van Nistelrooy going in there now in place of Cooper, these are on that hitch, if you like. These are on these potential 5-match wave, and they could, as daft as it looks, come to us. And you know, we've seen in the past what we've been unable to do with Leicester. I mean, obviously we got the point, which was a scramble towards the end, that got us into the Champions League position in the past with these guys. So you know, they aren't an easy team, and at the minute they as much as we look on paper and we should beat. I mean, you know, I'm not being funny. I mean, when I look at the next 6 games, so Leicester, Brentford, Ipswich, Aston Villa, Man United, and Tottenham, realistically, you should be bagging 4 wins, a draw, and a loss if you're looking on averages. But what I look at it now and I think to myself, where can I see a win? You know, Leicester, like I say, at home, they're on a curve at the minute because of a new manager, so they're on an upward spiral. If we go out with the attitude that we've won before we've even kicked a ball,
That's
that
the
could be a
problem.
banana skin.
That's the problem. And that appears to have been the problem for a year now. That we go out against these so-called lesser teams, and the attitude just doesn't appear to be there, which is there against the big teams. And you know, this is what Eddie's now got to come to terms with, and he's got to manage it, and he's got to make sure it stops happening. And if he can't, he's got to go. You know, like I say, Leicester have only won 3 games all season. I've gone through them. They didn't really deserve to win any of them. Well done, Trolls. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Just going to have a quick look at who they've gone to.
Who've they gone to? Yeah.
And Sophie B looks like she's been gifted one, so well done, Sophie. Jimmy McKenna, well done, Jimmy. Dean Young is another one, well done. Ever Black and Martin Watson. So well done, Trolls, and well done everybody that's been gifted a membership.
Thank you, Trolls, yet again.
Yeah, do Trolls a massive favour. Give him a thumbs up and say thank you. And if you, again, do us a massive favour, just throw us a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new. So yeah, this could be a big one, and you know, going on like I've just said about Leicester.
So like I say, Ipswich have only won 3 games all season, and they didn't really deserve to win any of them. Ipswich have only won 1 game this season. That was at Spurs, and in that game, Spurs had 67% possession. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
17 shots on goal. 17 shots with only 5 on target, and they scored 1 goal. Whereas Ipswich, with 33% of the play, had 8 shots, only 3 on target, but 2 goals. And how many of the games that we've lost or drawn this season have followed exactly those metrics, where we've had umpteen attempts, not enough of those attempts on target, and certainly not enough of the on-target ones being converted into goals.
Yeah, but you know, one of the biggest metrics for me this season, mate. I know you were saying before about us being only, you know, second in the league regarding goals conceded beyond Liverpool.
Well, that was the case. It's not now.
Yeah. It's certainly not now, and that's more the problem to me. I think, not only are we not scoring goals, I think we've turned a corner regarding that, if I'm honest. Start of the season, we struggled to score goals, but we weren't conceding many. Now we've gone back to the old metric where we're scoring goals, but conceding far too many. And we are now in a situation where how do we go to, again, with limited defence, because we've only really got one spare centre back. And he's another left footer that seems to struggle to play anywhere but on the left hand side, the same as what we've already got. We've only got Fabian Shed, who's a right sided centre back, because obviously we're now Crafts out till January. So, like I said to before, for me, this team, as much as we've got bigger as a squad, the quality within the squad remains that certain few will still keep the shirt this weekend. And that to me is been a massive downfall regarding not being able to put bodies in situations and having the bodies to change. And I think that's what I said. The only excuse I can give Eddie for not having a plan B is the quality that you're lacking within certain parts of the team to stop these goals going in. And it doesn't matter. I mean, people will say, well, you can play with 2 sixes. We haven't got 2 natural sixes within the side. And we know that because we've played both of them there. Tonali seems the better one out of the 2 that we've got. But again, unless you've got 2 players that understand the role, then, you're limited on that one. We all know what, the other players around us give you. Willett gives you, a couple of decent games, then he goes off the boil. J7 seems to be exactly the same this season. But again, I have to point the finger at Eddie and say, is this because we're changing them around far too much? And it's like, you get them playing, they move position, they stop playing. They get them playing again, they move position, they stop playing. And, I said before, you've got a massive situation where to make one substitute, you're having to change 2 players regarding where they play
That's
on the field.
I mean, we've done this in the post-match reviews and that there. That's what we can't, none of us can
Yeah, but
understand.
what I'm saying to you is that the reasons why we haven't got a plan B? Because against these smaller sides, if your plan A isn't working and you can't change what you've got, how are you going to beat them? Because that's what you're going to need to have in your armory to go forward. I'm not saying against the big teams. It's more the little teams that are in and around you in the league that you've got to try and create a tactic that you're going to be able to get shots off and get in and behind. We know how desperate we've looked regarding a low block. And I really struggle to see where we're going to go forward. And that's why I said Leicester's a big game for me on Saturday. The next big game is Brentford, and I'll tell you the reasons why. If we go out to the Cup on Brentford, I can see a hell of a lot of heads. If they haven't already dropped with our current form, they're going to massively drop going out of the quarterfinals of a cup. That's going to be a massive.
If that happens, whose fault is it?
Well, you can only blame Eddie. That's what I keep saying to you. Eddie's the man who sits on the chair and gives the information out to the players. He's the man who comes out into every press conference and tells you that he hasn't changed anything in 2 years and can't understand our decline. Now, everybody can, like I said to you, whenever you're in the hot seat, yes, you've got a plan. Yes, you've got a number of bodies to work with, but unless you can change what you're doing, then it becomes repetitive. Now, again, have they stopped listening? I don't know. I can't give you the answer to that
Well,
because if Eddie Howe can't,
the big elephant in the room here is, has Eddie lost the dressing room? And I think there's a lot of evidence that I'm seeing to say that he has. And possibly the reason he has is the oft-level criticism at him that he picks his favourites. And I saw there was a couple of examples on Saturday where I saw Bruno. He did everything but put his hands on his hips and shake his head at a couple of the things that Longstaff did that Tonali wouldn't have done. And if they are looking and saying, "Oh, fucking hell, got Murphy and Longstaff to carry again," if that is the case, then he has to go. But we'll find out if that's the case specifically against Leicester, because as far as I'm concerned, really, like I say, the Carabao is important. It's the biggest chance we've got of winning a trophy. But
Beard
if we,
here, he's having a right smack. Pope, Shaw, Byrne are championship players. Then we've got Murphy and bloody Longstaff, who wouldn't get a game anywhere else in the league now. Has he got a point?
well,
Is it the fact that we've
if you
hit
look
that?
at the recent results, he has got a point. Of course, he has. But we've also seen how well Shea can play on occasions. How well, I mean, for me, Byrne was man of the match on Saturday,
Yeah. You said
which I've taken brickbats for, but I stick by it. I've watched it now 3 times, the third time specifically to see why I was getting brickbats, and he did absolutely nothing wrong the whole game. And who was the other one? Pope. Well, Pope on Saturday wasn't brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. If it hadn't been for Dan, he would have looked even more stupid than he did. And time and again, we've seen, when what was the game he got beat at the, Crystal Palace, when
Palace.
he
Yeah.
when he conceded the equaliser in injury time to his near post.
But it's funny, isn't it? Because Steve McGarry here is saying that Shaw's been great. It's nonsense. And that's what I
Well,
said.
I
Everybody
don't
has a
think
view.
Shea's been. He's had a couple of poor games. He had a shocker on Saturday, to be fair, but
Yeah, he was out
him
of
and a
position.
few more. And
But it's funny, isn't it, how
that's the
certain
problem.
individuals.
What
Yeah,
we haven't had is our stellar players producing stellar performances. Gordon this season compared to last season, shadow of his former self.
yeah.
Bruno this season compared to last season, shadow of his former self. Now here's the thing that Chris alluded to this. He loves to say, we've made Bruno the highest player and Gordon the second highest player. Now they've got the money, or they're just sitting back, or what? I don't know. But
Yeah.
the simple answer to that is, if you didn't pay them the money, they're going to go.
Yeah.
What we want is them to perform. J7 bar 3 games this season has been atrocious. Now you can argue that could be down to his injuries or whatever. But can we afford to drop him? Have we got anybody else who can do what he does? Probably not. And this gets down to transfers and transfer windows and PSR and Eddie getting the backing from the board. And we're just going round and round on this
It's merry-go-round.
ever decreasing circle
Yeah.
till eventually it's like a plug hole. Eddie's going to end up going down it.
Nick
Rightly or
Thornton.
wrongly, because it's about results, and like I say, for me, if we get beat off Eddie, and if there's not a damn good reason for it, then I am sorry, I'm out, because I don't think that winning the game against Brentford that'll not be sufficient evidence for me to keep him on, because
Well,
we
obviously,
really,
Nick's just made that question there about if we lose against Leicester. Like I said, this is a potential banana skin for me with our current form. But pen on paper, this could be again one of those roundabouts where we turn a full circle and get a 2 or 3 win cycle going again, like we've seen
exactly, and
previously.
this is what Eddie has a habit of doing. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, and we've seen it in the past. We went through this exact same cycle almost a year ago exactly, when we got beat off Forest at home. We drew 4-4 with Luton. We recently got beat by them at Kenilworth Road, and we went through this horrible cycle last Christmas when I excused it at the time because there were reasons for it with all the injuries and shit that we had at the time. But the voices then really were getting loud for Eddie out, and then we turned it around and we beat Villa at Villa Park, and etc. 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 So
Yeah,
he
yeah,
has a habit of pulling rabbits out of hats. Now,
yeah,
is
yeah.
that because he's having team meetings and saying, "Look, lads, help me out here," and getting the response because he had the dressing room at that time? Or will it be a question this time of saying, "How are you, lads? Help us out," and them saying, "Mm-mm, no, we'll be happy to see the back of you soon."
That's what I'm saying. You can't put a finger on it,
And
can you?
that's it. Once a manager loses a dressing room,
It's done.
unless it's because of a couple of bad eggs, in which case you simply, you've got to back the manager and get rid of them bad eggs. But by all accounts, that's not the case. So you've just got to
Well,
tell it like it is.
it seems to be the opposite at our
I
place.
still think we've got a good enough squad to finish Champions League.
See, it seems to be the opposite for us, doesn't it? It seems as if we have far too much fun rather than having bad eggs. We're never in the press for something that's, you look at Marcus Rashford at the minute, who's in
Yeah,
the press for all the wrong stuff, um, contemplating on being sold in January going forward. And you look at if they're looking at 50 million for him, 50 plus, then you have to question it, don't you? Ginger Hoskins has come in and asked a question. Um, Gary, first 4 games, 10 points, not bad. Yet 11 games out later, 10 points out of the possible 33. That's sackable, right? Now,
it's funny because Longstaff played in those first 4 games.
you won't let it go, will you?
Just saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You won't let it go. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, well, let's put it into perspective. First 4 games, not playing really well, and
Yeah,
we get 10 points.
yeah.
And then we've
And
turned a
then
corner where
Tonali came back.
we started playing half decent, and we couldn't get a win.
That's
And it
right.
was like,
We're playing far better football.
yeah,
Weren't
yeah.
getting the results.
And like you're right. I mean, 10 points out of 33 isn't good, and we are on the decline.
Relegation
And
form.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, I often say chairpersons, board often look at getting when you get down to a point a game on whether you get sacked or not. And like I say, the last time I checked, Eddie was on 1.3. He's probably down to 1.2 now, so he ain't far away from the dreaded vote of confidence. And like I say, these next 3 games to me will see Eddie in or out.
And and I think that's the overall concept. If you watch all social media everywhere, what
Yeah, yeah.
everybody's saying, it's more or less the same thing. He's got these 4 games to get his act together, and if he does, and if we get the points, then it's up to the board in January to help him out a bit.
He's an interesting one because there's a relevance to this, I suppose.
Of course, there is.
Um, Tony T says can't blame Eddie if Isaac misses a sitter or Hall passes the ball to the opposition.
Or
Um,
Barnes passes the ball to the opposition.
Mistakes are going to happen, and like I say, mistakes are highlighted during poor results, uh,
Yeah,
and that happens across the board. We often hear, through the grapevine, bad news travels a lot quicker than good news does, and it's fact, isn't it? We all know that people like to gossip, people like to push the bad stuff. The big thing for me is the fact that when we were flying on a crest of a wave, it wasn't the individuals making mistakes that you heard of. It was those that were doing everything right. We talked a lot about Gordon. We talked a lot about Isaac, Bruno, all doing a great job last season. Those 3 individuals this season haven't been setting the world alight.
no.
But again, you start questioning Isaac's not getting the delivery of the ball. He has missed a couple of sitters. I agree with you. But he's still in and around the area to actually get those shots away. And I think for me, I always say you look at all of the great strikers in the world. if you're putting yourself in them positions over and over and over again, form and goals change.
He's
It's
already
those that
scored more
disappoint.
headers this season than he did all of last season with his 21 goals.
Yeah, and it's crazy that you're looking at this stuff and you're saying to yourself, where are we at regarding the
Well,
current
like I say,
situation?
we've got
I find it difficult.
Leicester, Ipswich, and then Villa at home. And in the middle of that, we've got Brentford at home in the cup.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
saying.
to me, he's got to win. He's virtually got to win the lot. Because
Well,
if he does, we'll suddenly be back in top 6, knocking on the door of top 4,
you know,
and we'll be in the semi-final of the Carabao.
yeah, Leicester this weekend. Then you've got Brentford on the is that Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, isn't it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, and then Ipswich away. So that's what I said. For me, the big game now. I mean, we all know what Ipswich can do on a day because they seem to like to score goals. It's whether they can stop conceding. They're certainly up there on the front foot when it comes to that. And obviously, then Boxing Day, that Christmas period for me, Ipswich away, and then Villa at home, and then you've got Man United away on New Year's Eve. Not New Year's Eve, you know what I mean? 30th of December. You've got there's some crucial games coming up. People will say there's 3 easy and 3 hard fixtures there. Like I said, this time last season we were
Well, what are
looking
you
at
calling the 3 hard?
Aston Villa, Man U, and Tottenham
All right, Tottenham's into the new year. To
into the
me,
new year. But that's what I said.
the
It's the
decision will be
next
made
6.
by then.
Yeah, it's the next 6 fixtures is what I've looked at. Because I mean Tottenham come up to us at St James's Park and took us off the park regarding performance. We scored against the run of play, if you like, and we know what they can do, and we know, unfortunately, even them now we're asking for Ange to be sacked. So, like I said, you can see how football changes at the drop of a hat, doesn't it?
And
But
that's why I'm that long in the tooth, me, that I don't have these knee-jerk reactions. I say, let's see how it plays out and take it
yeah.
from there. But without a doubt, if we get beat off Leicester, he's got to go.
So Niall's saying that I think if he had lost it, you wouldn't see the determination to get goals back. But once the third went in, our heads dropped. Like I said, we've turned a corner regarding scoring goals. The problem is our defence seems to be all over the place. So Ian has put down that Shearer tells it as it is. Steve, he's the only one to listen to, and there's going to be again a lot of people that will. Somebody was saying that what Shearer was saying was BS.
Well, whether
So I
to me,
said he's a
he's the
pundit.
punter. He's
He's
the
got.
same
He's
as
got.
us. He's a
Yeah,
punter.
we are literally all supporters of the club and have an opinion, and all he's doing is airing his opinion, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think if we get beat off Leicester and you ask him again, you might have a different answer.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm Eddie in, right? I'm Eddie in. But if he gets beat against Leicester, I'm Eddie out.
Yeah, people say that I sit on the fence because I say I support whoever's in the hot seat. I don't hold a candlelight to anybody, and I never have, and I never will. I love Kevin Keegan, but I love Kevin Keegan as a player because he had that, and he brought a personality when he became manager. I love Pot Robson because of what he'd done in his career. But again, when he was manager, if it didn't go to plan, there has to be change. Now, whoever's in the hot seat now, I don't, I question if there's a critique to question, and if somebody else comes in, I will do exactly the same. I'll clap my hands and support him as he comes through the door. and I shall critique anything that I can see post his arrival. And that's me. That's not me saying I'm Eddie in or I'm Eddie out. I support whoever's in there at the minute, because at the end of the day, we are a results industry, and I just don't see what Eddie's going to do to turn things round.
That's that's exactly the point I'm making. If he can't galvanise the players and do whatever is required to get these next results, he's proven to me that he's incapable of doing that. And if he's incapable of doing that, he's not the man for the job anymore. Thank you very, very much for what you've done. You know, it's been a fantastic ride, but sadly, you've taken us as far as you can. Now, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And I hope in February, when we've spent £100 million in January and we're in the top 3 or 4, that we'll be looking back on this period as, wow, we just scraped through that, but look where we are now, and off we right off into the sunset. But the next, specifically the Leicester game, will decide whether he is capable of doing that or whether he isn't capable of doing that. And you'll not get a better chance than Leicester at home and Ipswich away to do that. Brentford at home, under the lights, started over. Said the same, by the way, about Brighton and West Ham, and look how that turned out.
Yeah, but they seemed a lot bigger games. You know, we know what West Ham can bring. We knew they grew their squad. Unfortunately, Lopetegui wasn't giving the fans what they expected from these new
Leicester beat
performers,
them
these new
3-1,
signings. That's what I'm
albeit
saying.
against the run of play. But
Run of play, exactly. And they come and turned us over too.
and
So that's what I said. You can't take anything for granted.
no,
Tony T's going to upset the big lad over in the States, but with this one, the idea Tonali is the answer to everything seems to come from nowhere. He started 6 Premier League games this season. We've won none of them.
well, that's what I was saying. Shawnee started the first 4 before Tonali came back, and we got 10 points.
It's funny how things happen, isn't it? And
That's
like I
football.
say, that is football. But yeah, people will always say, well, he hasn't had a run of games to actually consider.
Well,
Whether he's
this is the thing that's nagging in my brain right now is we can all see what a player he is.
absolutely.
So therefore, there's no doubt at all that the guys he's training with day in and day out can also see what a player he is. So why the hell is he not starting?
Yeah.
And then on Saturday in particular, for to have Gordon on the bench as well. Now, albeit we're saying Gordon's hasn't been pulling up trees the way he was last season, nevertheless, Gordon has still been one of our best performers this season out of a bad bunch.
Yeah.
And for them two to be on the bench just didn't make any sense to me at all.
That's what I said. You know, you have got to question some of Eddie's. People say, well, you need to rest your players, but there was obviously better. Well, I say better players. There was players out there that, to me, deserve to be on the bench a lot more than Tonali did. If I'm honest, even though, like I say, individually they all make mistakes. For me, you'd got somebody who was going to get back and fight a little bit more. His recovery was a lot better than a lot of players on the park. He didn't give things up. His ball play was a lot better than some individuals on the park. But it's the balance, and I don't know whether Eddie Howe sees a problem with the balance of Tonali and Bruno being two technical players. I mean, you know, Bruno's on the top of a list for fouls. That's the only thing he's on the top of the list for. And we're 4th in the list for most saves this season with Nick Pope. And I think that just shows you how poor our defensive unit's been if Nick Pope's having to save all of those balls. Again, you know, you're looking at a percentage, and a percentage will go past you. So, But yeah, he's fourth in the list of so far. And it's not the type of stats I want to see from our players, if I'm honest. Trolls is saying Shaw has been rubbish except for 1 or 2 games, and Byrne cost us goals too often, even though he is Wins' love child. How is Beige? Imagine listening to him for 3 years. The guy is always saying how difficult it is for the club to compete. Even if true, he should be saying the opposite, rallying the troops and the crowd.
That's not his style.
No,
And
sorry, but Howe uses way too long playing players that are ready to play. We don't have that time, to be fair. How out, says Trolls. I mean, it's a funny one because, like I said,
listen, I can understand everybody who wants Howe out. As I said to JQO yesterday, the arguments that have now built up, perfectly rational, reasonable arguments as to why Howe should be sacked, are there for all to see. I just think keep your finger off that little red button for a little while longer and see where we could be. Now, that's
yeah.
me with my Eddie Howe blinkers on. I agree it is. But I just,
Davey,
I've been here too many times.
yeah. Davey Eddie, geez, we were all buzzing before the West Ham game, ready to push on. Of course, it didn't work out. Then the same for Brentford. Attitudes and opinions are changing game on game. Everyone is scratching their heads.
That's spot on,
I
Jimmy.
think that we are so indifferent when it. But it's. I mean, Shane says, the inconsistency is horrific. When I watch, I don't know which Newcastle I will be seeing, and that's the problem, isn't it? I called it Jekyll and Hyde.
And again, you've got to put that down to, you've got to put it down to the manager.
Yeah.
Chris's rule adage, if one player's having a bad game, you put it down to the player. But if 10 players are having bad games, you got to put it down to the manager. And, there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah. DXK has come in and says we need to be better at selling players at the peak of their value. Trippier and Wilson to Bayern last Jan. Miggy after the good one, good season. We've had opportunities to cash in, but way too slow. And again, I said we've got to stop being a giveaway club to see us going forward. But you see, my question is, and I'm sure somebody put it in the chat earlier on, and I did see a quick glimpse before it moved on. It was a case of, I mentioned it previously at the start of the show. It sounds very much now that we have to sell to buy, right? And even if we don't sell in January, we're going to have to sell in June before the next window. And the question is, if we'd already had to move on the likes of I was going to say Anthony Gordon, Anderson, and Minte, the chances of Miley going this next period of transfer business is higher than I expected it to be because of our current sellable assets. And DX has got it right. We've got a lot of older statesmen, and I think that's one of the main reasons why we've stagnated a little bit. I think last season, the season we got Champions League, going into last season, I think it was the plateau of last season, and I think there's a lot of players, senior players, on the decline this season. And when you bring in youth, when you bring in young lads, inexperienced, and you've got to understand, the likes of Tino. Tino was out a year because of his ACL, didn't get much game time, so he's come back in and he's virtually, he's out. What is he? 21? Tino. 22 perhaps. I mean, these guys, when you miss out on such a chunk of your professional, experience, it takes a hell of a lot to come back up. And everybody has said, the lad's gifted in some areas of his game, but so weak in others. Now, we know he hasn't got the classic delivery as Trippier had regarding delivery into the box. And we know sometimes he can fall asleep on some of his defensive moves, which have cost us. But, you
Just
know,
turned 22.
22, yes, I say 21, 22.
But,
And to me, you know,
but
that's been the
sometimes,
biggest fundamental thing.
sometimes you can set the place alight with a
A
run
run.
out of nowhere.
That's
you
what
know?
I'm saying. And you can see what it has on the audience watching as well as the players, you know, but he goes on these mazy runs. The biggest problem to me is it's Nick Thornton said about, you know, Leicester will set up against the low block. That's what concerns me, because we don't seem to have the ability to actually get behind them, you know, and we know they've got legs up
And
top,
you know
even
what
though he's
frightens
38-year
me?
old.
You know what frightens me? Vardy
Yeah, that's
being
what I said.
being one
They've got a
being
38-year-old
1-on-1
striker.
against Bernard.
Yeah. And that's what they'll look at. They'll look at
Yeah.
just letting him sit on the halfway line, knowing full well we'll go on to the press.
And he can finish, as we well know. You know, like I said, the West Ham stats. You know, they had 6 shots, scored 3. Sorry, 6 on target, scored 3. Southampton 4 on target, scored 3. Bournemouth 2 on target, scored 1. So when they get on goal, they finish.
When they have an opportunity, they're putting them away. Brant has put down that. Sorry, my clicker. These cycles show why we need a new coach. Why does he have to pull rabbits out of hats constantly? He's placing himself in those situations a lot of the time. We are definitely questioning his ability now to move forward, and obviously try and work out the reasons why we can't change our current form. Why we haven't got a plan B? And like I say, the only thing I can think of, and I tell you what, Win, do me a favour, write me down now, off top of your head, and guys in the chat, I want to see what you think, right? A consensus of players. We'll do the next, say, 15 minutes. Type in your top 11 Newcastle players. What you think of now, while I'm going through the chat, and give me what you think our top
What should be
11
the starting
players.
11?
Well, yeah, just starting 11. Who do you think our top players in any position are at the club as we speak?
I would have thought they picked that out.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And that's part of the problem.
And you're absolutely right. But it'd be interesting to see where people put their top players and who we've got. And then from that, if we can get a consensus of the same names across a number of bodies, what you can do then is try and create something from that. But it would be interesting to see what people think. Lee McFarlane, yeah, it's time for Byrne and Shaw to be told to stay on the defensive third. They are caught out almost every time when they go forward. Dumb as. Brilliant. I think it's time Newcastle had a change in head coach department. We've gone stale. I wonder if player wants different style. Now, I saw this, Paul.
Stale. That's the.
Yeah.
That's the.
I saw this the other day, and somebody had said that, and it was interesting to hear Eddie's talk with what's his name? Yeah,
Simon Jordan.
Simon Jordan. The other day when he says he wouldn't go to Celtic because he couldn't take his mate with him, even though they approached him before he come to Newcastle. And it makes me think that even if you took away Jason Tindall now, Eddie would walk anyway. I think they are literally whatever.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I think, unfortunately, what you've got there is like a Tingard and Tucker situation, and you have to be of a certain age to remember that. And you know, it's both of them or none of them, and that's where you are with that. The Longstaff crap is just absolute crap. Mentioning that numpty stat is a sackable offence. Win, be careful, says the American mag.
You don't like it. You can face the truth.
Long-standing and tonality
You can handle
would be
the
better
truth.
than Bruno running around in circles. that says Stephen McGarry. Now that's an interesting one because we saw them against Chelsea, Tonali, Longstaff, and Willock in the middle, and it was a good game. It was a good game of football. We wanted James Trafford, a decent young prospect, but ended up with those two pointless keepers due to PSR, says DX. Throw him in jail, Chris, says Niall. Just
Right,
because Win wants
let's have a
Lungies to
quick
play.
look through some of these then, because you've asked Pope,
Oh, go on then.
Tino, Lascelles, Botman. Oh well, I haven't put Botman in because he's injured, and I haven't put Lascelles. Not that I would have Lascelles in, like, but anyway. So Pope, Tino, Lascelles, Botman, Hall, Big Joe,
I'm going to take a photo of that. I'm just going to keep it on the
Bruno,
screen, mate.
Tonali, Gordon, Isaac, and have none on the right wing. Says, well, so there's one
It's
of
not,
Eddie's problems.
but that's what I'm saying. It's not about position. Don't think about
Yeah.
position, just our best players.
So Brandt has gone with Tonali, Byrne, Hall, Botman, Tino, Bruno, J7, Gordon, Isaac. Anyone we're bringing in January? Well, I've gone for exactly that.
That's what you've gone for as well, yeah?
With Bonds, because you said the 11 best players. So
the 11 best players, regardless of where they play. I just want you
Well,
to.
I've got Pope. I've gone for Trips at right back because I still think he's a better right back right now than what Tino is. So I've gone Pope, Trips, Share, Byrne, because I'm not taking Lascelles and Botman into consideration. Share, Byrne, Hall, Tonali, Bruno, J7, Gordon, Isaac, and Bonds.
So you've thrown in Bonds as well. Okay. This is Gordon's third consecutive season with the smallest number of breaks. I think it could be a burnout. I think, Jack Sparrow, I think you're absolutely, you're hitting a mark that I mentioned during one of Chrissy's and Wynn's shows. And I was like literally again listening to the guys, and you look at Gordon. Gordon has had very little downtime in between seasons over the last 3 years, and he could be on burnout, as daft it looks, and because of the effect that he had on him in the Euros. So I think there could be potentially something there. I'm not saying it is.
So Steve McGarry, Transurfer, he's leaving Bruno out and putting Miley in instead of Bruno.
Right.
So
that's
here's
his
the other
thoughts.
thing, because we've mentioned Miley a few times now.
Yeah.
Why is he not on the bench? Why is he not getting game time, etc., etc.? If you're ready, Howe, and your job depends on it, are you going to chance? Are you going to gamble on young ones or on players that you know and trust? He's got Miley in, or he's got Bruno in as well. So Davy T is Bruno, Gordon, Isaac, Tonali, J7, Hall, Tino, Bonds, Botman, Pope, and Miley. So
That was Davy T's.
He has left out. Who's he left out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, he's got 10.
Yeah. And I think again he's thinking of that. That's what I said.
Oh,
It's difficult to actually. Well, you've got to put Botman in because he's in the side, but I'm not saying what you can pick from now. I'm just saying who are your best players in your 11, and again, what you've got to understand is, or what I'm trying to allude to here is, it's bloody difficult to pick a 11 that will play in all positions without unstabilizing another area. And like I said, the biggest thing that I have seen this season is repetition. Players haven't been able to get involved in a position without being challenged in another area, or by
what I'm
another
seeing
person.
there from everybody who's put those 11s in, is that 8 of the 11 are the same throughout.
Like I said,
everybody has got Tonali in. Nobody has got Longstaff in. So why is Tonali not
on the bench? Listen, like I said, we can sit here and we can have a debate on, who should play and who shouldn't play, until we are blue in the face, mate. We can only we see in snippets these players and everything else, and that's why I said it's interesting for me, because obviously I don't have favourites, as in I don't hold a candlelight to any of the players, but you certainly get a feeling for the players that are tactically more adept at their job than other players that get in before them. So I've never understood why. And again, the only thing I can think of is balance. You know, when you've got a player that is so good at his job, and we've said this before, you know, you've got players out there that use just the feet and not the brains. You've got players out there that are very clinical in the way the brain works, and they see a pass before it's the ball's given to them. And we've seen that with a lot of Tonali, because he plays that one-touch stuff, which is very European football. We don't seem to tend to see a lot of that this side of the pond. And obviously, we all talk about what Pep has done great for the game, because everybody talks about Pep football now, playing from the back. But if you go and again, I go and watch a lot of lower league stuff, and you know, this is not only in the Premier League now. This is trundled throughout all of the divisions. Everybody wants to play Pep football. Is it spoiling the game to a degree? Because we all seem to be literally talking from the same tactical backing. We don't seem to ever want to change things up. Like, I remember the times where you'd throw a centre half on to go and play up front, because you're going to start playing balls direct up to your front men for the knock-ons and for the hustle and bustle. And you would pick off anything from that. Those days seem to have totally gone now. It seems to me as if it's like one of them games that you used to do as a kid. You've got to pass the ball 20 times before you can shoot. Do you know what I mean? The game seems to overcomplicated itself in some degrees. So
I can absolutely assure you that Eddie does not give those players, when they go out on the pitch, instructions to go out and misplace, underhit, overhit, simple passes. And that's what the players are doing. We cannot seem to put three passes together, especially not three forward passes. We'll lose possession so often, it's unreal. You've got Davy Eddy here saying Alf Ramsey asked his players if they like gold. Yes, of course, they said. Well, he says, well, that ball is a block of gold, don't give it away. In a similar vein, Pele famously said, that ball is like my daughter. Nobody gets it off me. And as I say, Eddie is not instructing the players to go out and misplace passes, but they're doing it. And we know for a fact that they're capable of not doing it. But they're you know, where we're going here, we're going round in circles, I suppose.
But that's how difficult it is to try and discuss where we are. I mean, Ginger's come in with this one. Look, I'm a man of knowing form, so doesn't Eddie Howe need to win 18 games out of the remaining 24 to get any kind of Europe? I mean, again, you
Definitely
know,
not.
well, if everybody around us is taking the same points off everybody else, he's got a point win.
No,
Because
65 points, well, 63 points historically will get you into Europe.
into
We're on
Europe, yeah.
20 now, so we need 43 points. That's 14 wins.
Well, what I'm saying to you is you've got to look. Yeah, but this is how bad it's got now, isn't it? Because you
Well, you can
can't
have 12 wins and 4 draws.
four draws. Yeah, exactly. What I'm saying to you is I never look ahead of that far ever. To me, it's always the next game, because we've seen so often with Newcastle. We did it last year. You know, these are you guys say it a lot, must-win games. I don't
Yeah,
think
well,
there's ever
the
a
must-win
must-win
games are the
game.
games that we've had where if we win, we're going to go boom
Yeah, yeah. You've got
into Europe, and
you've got
every
movement.
single time we'll cock up.
Yeah, again, it seems to be historical, doesn't it? You know, with
So we
that
drop
pressures,
down. So then we'll win 2 or 3 and get we're there again, and then the next game that we play, which is going to take us to that next horizon,
horizon.
bush, will get beat again.
Yeah, and that's why I said to you guys the other day. For me, it was always nicer when I was coaching to coach the youth side because they hadn't got the scar tissue from failure. And I know it went over you guys' heads a little bit, but it's like I said, when you go out there and you've got total raw talent that have never failed in anything in life, they can go out there and just relax and play
Yeah,
football.
I think it went over our heads, Gary. I just think it didn't have any particular relevance, other than the fact that yes, it's more enjoyable to coach them. But
Oh, but when you're talking to players that have failed and failed with your team previously, yeah, it's very difficult when you keep on saying it's a must-win event and we can't win a must-win game. So
yeah,
there has to be relevance. What is stopping you from? And it's just a mentality. It's because they've got the scars from the previous
yeah,
failure.
yeah, I agree with that. But what's the solution?
Change. That's what I was saying before. You have to make changes. You
Oh,
cannot
you
rely on
mean introduce new blood to the squad? You mean?
absolutely. And
Oh
if that
yeah,
means
well,
younger
well,
players,
we're all on
yeah,
that page.
yeah.
But of
But what I'm
course,
saying to you is, we've all picked 8 players that are in the squad. That's what you've just said, right? Everybody's saying exactly the same. The same 8 names have come out of the hat. That tells you that it's worrying when you're picking all of the same players from that same app because that's exactly what Eddie Howe's looking at. The same names on the same piece of paper, week in, week out. How can I change that?
so fetch
That's the question
Sanusi
I
and
want
Mick
to ask.
Miller in.
Well, I mean, Mick Miller's 15. I think he's probably a little bit on the younger side, but what a player he's going to turn out if
Had
he
a
carries on.
blinder the other day, didn't he?
He didn't off that breakaway and his
Yeah.
pace.
Oh,
Wow.
lightning.
Phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal. But all I'm saying to you is, I mean, DX has put down, to be fair, he put Burn, Trips, Wood, Target, Isaac, Pope straight in. um, listen,
But there is the problem, man. We're just having 3 transfer windows. We've done virtually nothing.
18 months. If you look at 18 months
Yeah,
of not bringing in a player for the first 11, then
yeah,
you've got problems. Any team will have problems doing that.
of course so. Yeah. This
Because
is why I'm keeping me powder dry. Come on, and win these games. Let's get over
yeah.
there. January window, get some new blood in.
I mean, we have got loads and loads of chat, and I apologise for not being able to mention everything. But again, I've picked Kieran Woods. I haven't seen you before, Kieran. Welcome. Would you be
Hello,
happy at
Kieran.
seeing Sanusi on the bench over Miggy? Well, like I said, you have to ask the question: is if these guys are on the bench to provide us with an answer, or at least a potential to go on, then I think they deserve to be on the bench. But if they cannot influence the game, and again, I go on to this, you have to make a decision, and it's a gamble. With all of these youngsters, it's a massive gamble. And the biggest problem is, as the gamble started to be slight in the outset, it's now become a massive one because it's points make prizes. And, like I said, the more pressure's now on Eddie Howe to even change the big names that he's got in the side, never mind blood the likes of Sanusi into the side. Now, I saw Sanusi in Australia. He's got a little bit of ability, but I've also followed him in the academy. I think he's a little bit of away from being
Bit of an
a
ASM at the
first
minute,
time.
isn't he?
Yeah, he does a little bit of run up these dark alleys and not
Yeah.
really know
End
what's happening at
product
the end of
isn't
them.
quite there yet.
Yeah. But I mean,
Exciting,
you can see
exciting.
he's got he's got the talent and he can beat a player. Whether he's got the muscle, and again, I go to what Miley suffered with when he was thrown in, even though he's a bigger lad, Miley's had to build himself out and he's had to try and do it without losing the lack of speed that he had originally. So hence he pre-season he come in and injured himself by trying to become faster as well as bulk out. So sometimes there comes a problem by trying to change. So you have to be careful when it comes to stuff like that. Well, what else did I see down the bottom here? It's all right. I was like about 30 questions behind everybody. Every game is different and offers different challenges, so you have to face each other differently. So that was Wacky Angler. But you see, I still think, Wacky, that the biggest problem with this is Eddie changing too much game after game rather than concentrating on his own gameplay. Is he tactically trying to play a different style of football against each opposition? Because that can derail you. If you're not concentrating on your strengths, your own individual strengths, and working a tactic that suits your team, rather than trying to stop the opposition, we could be in an issue even on that score.
Yeah, we've got Mason in the chat. Hello, Mason. I haven't seen
Hey,
you
mate.
for a while. Seen you in the forum.
So David T saying if the keeper kicked it long, then the centre halves wouldn't just feign injury from the forwards challenge. It's a totally different game now. The players' quality has slipped
I must
dramatically.
admit, I think we're missing a trick in not going long more often than we do. With the pace we've got up front, we should be going along way more often than we do. But the problem with that is you've got to have a keeper who can at least get somewhere near the target area that he's aiming for. And in Pope, I don't think we do have. I think Eddie's probably accepted that.
Yeah.
And said, right, so we've got to play out from the back. But I think sometimes just have a go, hit it, and if it doesn't come off, it doesn't. But what at least they're starting in the back end of their own half instead of on the halfway line or whatever. When a misplaced pass from one of the outfield players goes astray, just give it a whirl.
Exactly. People like Nick Thornton's talking about Iraola being on the bench, and Eddie said he's fourth choice because he's even behind Anthony Gordon, who has done nothing for me up front whatsoever.
No, when he's played through the middle,
we've gone. It's gone. I mean,
I
know
you just
he got the penalty against
not
Man
only are
City.
you wasting the centre forward position, but you're wasting the wing as well.
Well, that's what I said. You lose two positions.
Yeah.
It's not just the one position. And then he said, "Why not loan him out or play him?" And we've spoke about this before, and this is what worries me: the likes of Miley and Iraola, because you become the also runs. You're too good to go out on loan because you may be needed, but you're not good enough for the 11. So you sit on the bench and get splinters. My concern for him is the fact that, I mean, to be fair, Ben Parkinson's turned a little bit of a corner. This season, he seems to be scoring freely now. My concern is the lad's not even getting a chance even in the under-21s, which Miley's getting. And I know you're only allowed so many players, overage players, to play in the under-21s through the season. So there's something that doesn't quite work for me. Even if he could still be on the bench if they're looking to have that strength or another centre forward on the bench. But now Wilson's back, I can't see him ever playing at all. He wasn't playing when we only had one striker. So what's the chance of him now coming onto the field when we've got two? It makes no sense whatsoever. And even when we go two up top with Isak goes missing. You might as well bring Isak off and put two strikers fresh on. One that's going to hold the ball up for you, the one that's going to go long and run. And to me, that's where I don't know. I can't answer all the time because I have no idea what Eddie thinks.
Got
Doesn't make any sense.
In the chat here, Kieran Woods, welcome Kieran Woods. Haven't seen you before, but I'd argue that Sanusi can provide more than what Almiron can at the current moment. Almiron has become predictable just to his over-reliance on his left foot. Sanusi would be able to hit crosses. Well, he's not proven too good at hitting crosses, to be fair, Kieran. But welcome to the channel anyway. And Jack Sparrow. Hello, Jack Sparrow.
Jack Sparrow.
Do you think the higher-ups thought we finished fourth, then seventh with a depleted squad, and thought with the injuries back would get Europe again without investment? I think the very, very, very probably did, because I certainly did.
Yeah, it's more money. Like I said, we knew we'd got this, potentially 50 million to go and spend. But the biggest problem we had then, it was the battle of the big heads. It was the two immovable objects, and I still think there's issues there now. I said before, with Simon Jordan, do you work for? Now I work with. There's still elements of concern there for me, and it's like I said, you know, if we've got 50 million, say, for which is what apparently, Mitchell turned around and said was the highest we could have gone for Gay, and then it was a structured deal post that, which they kept on moving the goalposts. Um, and that's why after, but there was 2 weeks went by where this deal was still there and being talked about, but there was no difference in the finances that was, going further forward. It was stuck at a certain point, which was 50 million quid. Hence, then the Elanga deal that was the 11th hour was thrown out there because we were getting nowhere with Gay. I think that was a massive opportunity miss for me.
What the Angler saying, balls into space behind defence for Isaac Murphy Gordon to run onto. They all have pace instead of stopping and playing back. Well, I would, strangely, because we were having a discussion. There was a few of us having a discussion in the forum the night before last about Botman. It started off on the subject of Botman's pace, because for me, Botman's never been rapid, and somebody was saying he's clocked 37. I think it was Andy Bell saying he
Andy Bell, yeah.
7, and I got the stats up, and it was nowhere near. But what we did discover then, believe it or not, was that Barnes was our
He's
fastest player.
one of, yeah.
Into clocked in game.
Yeah.
Barnes was the fastest player we've had this season, which knocked my socks off because I've never. I think he's one failing is that when he beats him out, he can't get away from him. That's what it's always looked like to me.
Yeah,
And yet,
he's very much like Bruno. He's one paced, where some people have got that jink and an acceleration away. Barnes hasn't got that. He may be quick. I'm not saying he's not quick, but when you're one paced, it means that you go like there and that's it. There's nothing else. And we saw that at Brentford. I mean, he had all that space to run into, and even the defenders were getting back at him. So I don't know whether that was downhill with the wind behind him. You know what I mean? When he clocked that, but like I say, I've watched him for a few seasons now, and I've never really noticed him being that rapid.
I've never noticed pace, and as for Botman,
Popey
definitely
DX has put in. I don't know whether you put this up on the screen. He's 11. Would be that one.
Hall, Botman, share Tino, Tonali, Bruno, J7, Gordon, Wilson, Isaac. Oh well, I would settle
probably
for that.
the best 11. And to be fair, like I said, I think that's what I said. Everybody will pick the same because you're limited on. But he's got Wilson in, yeah.
But and that way, man, Dom, you're the one that's been advocating we should have sold Wilson in the summer.
I'm going to whack that one on my page as well, because what I'm going to do is try and get a list and a formation going out of all these players that we say are our best players.
Well, if you do, you'll be able to do that when we're finished, because the comments all still stay on then. So you'll be able to
exactly.
have a
well, no, I've took a photo of them all on the screen.
All right, right.
So as we've been highlighting, that's why I've gone back and had a look, see if there was any more that we'd missed. Listen, I know you've got to disappear.
You have, yeah.
So we're going to have to come to the end of the show.
No, we've done 2 hours plus, so.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that. It was more the fact that I know with the guys in the chat we could go on forever.
Nice to see some new faces.
It's great to see some new faces.
Don't forget to subscribe. How we're doing on the like? Oh, we've got past the 50 mark on the likes anyway.
Phil, thank you ever so much, guys.
Nearly 300 watching and all. Come on, man, hit the likes, hit the likes.
Yeah, indeed. You've got a show tonight, or are you having today off? Oh, you're at the what's
No, I'm quizzing tonight, but I'm
doing night.
Yeah, but we're bringing the extra time
a little bit further.
Is normally 2 o'clock in the morning.
2 a.m. for us, yeah.
With all the clock changes everywhere around the world, we're bringing the extra time forward, so we're starting that tonight at midnight.
Oh, right. Okay. So anybody that's up
So
around midnight, you
anybody,
can have
all
a
you
look.
insomniacs,
Yeah.
we can't keep you going till 4 o'clock in the morning like we normally do, but we'll be doing 12 till probably about 2 or something.
Yeah. So we'll be looking at tomorrow. We've got the review,
Josh
the
is
Leicester
back
game.
from his
Yeah. It's
travels
Dubai.
in the Middle East,
Yeah.
where he teamed up and got drunk with Roy. So he'll be
Yeah.
telling
Cool.
us all about that, no doubt.
Yeah.
And
Kenny W saying
Ben,
wins
who's
down the
been
big
in the
market
chat
with his
this
new
morning,
trainers.
by the way, no doubt he'll be on as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we'll
So
see you
just
at
before we
midnight,
go,
the witching hour.
yeah, Mighty Mags just put that out there for everybody,
Yeah,
just to give us the
smash the
thumbs
like,
up
please.
before they
If you're
leave.
watching on Twitter or Facebook, jump across onto YouTube, please, and hit the like button.
Yeah, indeed.
Hit the
I'm
bell
gonna
if you're new.
I'll leave that up there just for now, just to as we go. So again, thanks to everybody that's been involved. Thanks for all the chats and everything else. And again, thanks to my right hand man for again, the for the post comment argument, if you like, because at the end of the day, it's not a chat show unless you get opinions, and that's what we do. It's not a case of falling out and disagreeing. It's about throwing an opinion out there, and it's exactly the same with all you guys in Viewerland when you come and throw the chat in. It's about an opinion. We respect it, and all we ask from everybody is be respectful when you give it. Not everybody will agree with it, but as long as you say it in the right way, we'll listen to it. But
And my
until
sincere apologies, by the way. We're quite happy with the Santa hats and the red and white stockings hanging on the line. But that red and white bow in the middle has been doing my head in, and it has got to go.
Wynn's
Are
got a
you
massive
listening,
problem.
American Mark? Get that red and white bow out of the middle of this and get it done now.
It's mad. Listen, guys, thanks ever so much. Listen, we have to go now because Wynn's got to disappear. Tonight at midnight, if you want to catch the extra, and then tomorrow we've got the view
Don't forget,
of
if you
Leicester.
get a membership, you can look
Get
back
a membership, get everything. Yeah,
all the back catalogue, see everything you want to see.
absolutely. And all those that have been gifted a membership from Trolls, thank you ever so much, buddy. And everybody that's been a new member, keep plugging us and joining you monthly.
Keep your
Uh,
membership
uh,
going.
absolutely, because that will just support us going forward. But until the next one, I suppose we can have to say it's ta-da for now.
Goodbye from him.
Yeah, and it's a goodbye from him. Take care,
And
everyone.
we'll say, how are the lads?
The lassies and the bands. See you on the next one. Bye for now.
Bye.